Welcome back to the podcast, beautiful Maddie. Our last podcast was one that I definitely got the most messages about. Really helped people so much. So thank you so much for sharing. And I feel like we were also post-retreat bubble. We were just sharing, and I really was so excited to have you back on, especially at this really important time in your life. We were just speaking off air how so much has shifted and moving quickly for you in the last 6 months.
Yes, massively. Thank you so much for having me again. It's such a pleasure to be back. I was saying to Hilary just before, we're mid-voice noting each other about our lives.
I've left it hanging. Sorry, Maddie. I'm like, we'll finish the rest on the podcast.
literally, we'll finish the rest to be continued on the podcast. So where I feel as though it's high energy.
High energy, yes. We're recording at the time of the eclipses, at the time of lots of retrogrades. And we're going to come in with the clarity that we're receiving, some of the realizations we're getting, because yes, we can go really into the doom and gloom or the scare tactic. I remember even someone said to me, like, you can't launch anything in March. Have you seen how crazy it is? And little do they know, I always seem to launch in a retrograde by accident. I don't realize every single time, Maddie.
I love that.
Every single time.
I'm so fucking sick of the fear-mongering with astrology.
I honestly hate it. And I was actually just talking about with one of our mutual friends just earlier at lunch of like, no, we are stronger than any eclipse. Our light is stronger than any eclipse. Maddie's face is like, yes.
Literally, like, let's respect astrology.
But really,
it's a belief around
it's
it as well.
It's our response to it. And like, yes. Yeah. And look, it's definitely shaken things up for me. I'm not going to say that it's been easy. Definitely not. I've definitely been tested, which I really want to speak to about testing today, but it's been full on, but I choose to not spiral and I choose to see the silver lining. And to be honest, it's been my biggest launch that I've had so far and it's still not even finished. So I could have easily said no. And actually Maddie really inspired me to do it in the format that I've done it this round. And I'm really grateful for you for that because it feels so much more aligned now. But yeah, I really want to speak to, because I see how quickly you're expanding and all that's moving in your world. And I want to talk about when we get really clear on the things that we're wanting to create in our lives or the desires. And what I've noticed for you is like you've really just gone for it. And again, because this is something I know you work with clients really well in. It's like sometimes we desire change and we want change, but we don't know what the change is.
Yeah.
And I'll just hand it over to you because I know that you're so good with this. So for that person that's like, I really want change. I really want things to shift in my life, but I don't know what it would look like. I don't know who I would be in that.
Yeah. Okay, we can go at this in so many different angles. And yeah, I feel like our dynamic is we're going to take you on a journey, just preparation before we begin. But because this is top of mind for me at the moment, I'm actually just going to share the process of the Bloom method and then hyperfixate on one of the elements of that and why it's at the start and why it's so important to cultivate clarity. So essentially, long story short, I developed a 7-step process. It's a method. The first time I ever shared it was thankfully to Hilary. She initiated it within me. I'd been sitting on it for years, and the Bali retreat, it came to life for the first time in a group of people. Essentially, it's a 7-step process that utilizes nature, the principles in nature in a way, as well as neuroscience and the subconscious mind. So the first step to that is all about grounding. Essentially, if you're saying you don't have clarity, you are wanting change, but you don't know what it is, and simultaneously you are someone who is completely dysregulated, you're off center, you're overstimulated, there is no way in the world you're going to be able to really ground into your higher self, into that clarity. So step 1, we're grounding, we're regulating the nervous system. If we don't do that, we can't even access the subconscious mind for change or for the wisdom that it holds as well. So that's really step 1, what I would say to you. Ground, cultivate resilience within your nervous system, start resourcing yourself, picking up different tools that you can use to support you with that process. That can look like there's 100 million different things. I feel like if you listen to Hilary's podcast, you will already have some form of toolkit. So use that and start there, because if we are not grounded and our feet are not planted where we are, we are not going to be able to grow. We cannot vision from that place. So that's step one.
I really want to share something here because this was such a nice analogy that for exactly what you were saying about like, where are you, your feet in the ground. If we even think about Google Maps, when you were putting in a destination for the route you need to get in, it needs to know where your current location is.
Love.
And so you need to know where your current destination is, because only there, when you have that, how is it going to know? Can't give you the direction. And I think so much we're so focused external and first, okay, internal connection, internal grounding. So important. So yes.
Where are you at? Love that analogy so much. Okay, beautiful. So step 2, which is what we're speaking to now, is vision. So that is really all about spending time to vision where you want to be in life. And I'm not so big on the in 5 years time, I'll have we're not. That's not what I'm speaking about. You don't even need to know specific necessarily just yet of the house you want. We're not even talking about that granular just yet, but a vision of how you want to feel largely, which we spoke about on the last podcast, those baseline emotions that you want to be feeling in this ideal version of you, because I guarantee if you spend some time with yourself, you will roughly know what they are. So how you want to feel, start to understand maybe what you want, who you are, get to know your personality, utilize human design. You have this amazing resource to start to tune into what feels good for you, what doesn't feel good. I would say really check in, is this nourishing? Is this depleting? Start to filter through your life and then look at, okay, from this place, I kind of have a rough idea of what's feeling good. I have some inspiration in where I want to go. And then I also have some clarity around what's not feeling good. And that starts as your base. If you're like, I have no idea. You want to spend quite a lot of time here then, once you have a bit of a base, to meditate, to whatever. You can use hypnotherapy for this, in terms of you can see a hypnotherapist, they can connect you with your higher self. They can time travel you. You can get a bit of a visual of some of the things that are in your life, but you do want to spend some time and energy on what it looks like, what it feels like, maybe some of the things in the different categories of life as well. So clarity around career roughly, or at least the next step. You want to get as clear as you possibly can. If you're feeling blocked by clarity, there's a little bit of work that you can start doing around that as well. What is blocking you from that? Are you scared of your own power?
Yeah, I feel like it'd be so much around fear with that.
Yeah. So that's where it falls into the next step, which is weed. So often when we vision and we have this idea, or we have this little part of us that's like, oh, that looks fun, or I like what that person's doing and that's exciting me. I'm talking very Manny Jen, so you can add in other ways, but I'm like, your gut's pulling you.
I think we all, controversial opinion, I think all of us have a body response. Projector, manifestor, reflector. Human design community might not like that, but I truly believe it. As a projector, I have an intuitive response.
Be the black hat. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's actually disempowering to say that you don't. You might not feel it like a gut. I definitely don't feel it like a gut, but I definitely have an intuitive response. So yes, please continue.
Beautiful. Love that. So we'll slap that in there.
Yeah.
So yes, start to look at that. And this happened for me, and I shared this, I think, on the retreat. But when I was visioning, actually, so less than 6 months ago on retreat, I was visioning my life, where I wanted to head. I was visioning my dream house and where that was located. And what started to happen is it started to crumble in my vision. And I was like, okay, there's some so cool. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get a bit curious about what's going on there. So the next step is weeding. So what part of me, if we're looking through a parts work lens, is actually scared of this vision and it coming to life? And that's where some of the work is as well. So you start to toggle between these first 3 steps. Okay, I'm feeling ungrounded because I'm dysregulated because this fear is coming up. And then we're going to work on the fear. We're going to look at those limiting beliefs. So weeding is all about identifying the limiting beliefs and the parts that are not congruent with what you're currently now visioning and the direction that you are wanting to head into. So we're looking and we're working with those parts. And when we work with those parts, when we do the deconditioning, when we uncover the limiting beliefs, we get more clarity around the vision. We get more clarity around what we want. So we're starting to do this process. And each step along the way, when you have more clarity, spend the time to get really clear, as clear as you possibly can. If you want to shift in career, identify the top 3 things, start taking action in those, like you need to move through the process. So I'm going to tell you the rest of the process because then you can rinse and repeat essentially. And as you rinse and repeat these steps, the clarity becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, which is really what we're wanting. So we move into, okay, we've identified, we're weeding out the limiting beliefs. We're then going to seed and embed a new belief system that is in alignment with what we're consciously visioning, saying that we want, saying that we desire, this identity that we're wanting to step into. What are they believing? Let's embed that new belief system. The thing is, when we have the awareness and where I'm noticing actually a lot of people are stopping, this was something that I did for such a long time. It was, now that I know that I was in this, I'm like, okay, we were getting caught in the weeds.
Yeah.
Which is, so we're having the awareness, we're like, oh, there's a limiting belief here, there's a block here. And instead of continuing to move through this process, we're hyper fixating and ruminating and be like, oh, we can't have the vision because this happened, and there's a story and a narrative around what all of the things start to come into play and we get stuck. So what we're really wanting to do is we're weeding, we're seeding. And once we plant a new seed and a new belief, once we are clear on the new identity that we want to step into, we want to start nourishing that. So nourishing is all about repetition, emotional intensity, reinforcing the new neural pathways. And when we look at a neural pathway, it's not just the belief, it's the thought patterns, it's the emotional responses, and it's the habits. So we're looking at that whole system. We're not just focusing on the belief. That is not reinforcing the neural pathway. So we're reinforcing the neural pathway. This is where things like affirmations are actually powerful at this step, because if you're slamming on an affirmation once you find the limiting belief, you ain't going to get far. So it's understanding the different points in the process. It's understanding the different parts of the subconscious mind that it activates in that process and the different tools that we can use at each step to get us there faster. So we're nourishing, and the next part is the flourishing aspect, which is that's the aligned action, that's the embodiment, that's we're acting as if, that's all of that. And the integration of what we've visioned, the limiting beliefs that we've unearthed, the new beliefs that we're embedding, the new neural pathways. And then we have the last phase, which is our maintenance phase, which again, I don't know why, and I've had this certainly too, but with this work and with working with the mind, it's like we want this quick fix and we want to go to a couple of therapy sessions, or we want to work with a coach once, or we want to whatever, and then we're fixed and we're done. Sorry, but no, we don't brush our teeth once, we don't go to the gym once and hope that we're going to have a 6-pack or perfect hygiene. Like that mindset needs to shift. The breakthrough, if you're looking for a breakthrough, in my mind, what that means is you're looking for awareness, and awareness is you're at step 1. If you're just chasing breakthroughs, you're at step 1. So the maintenance allows us to constantly move back through this process, see what we're needing. Where is there a gap? Do we not have clarity? Okay, we're going back into visioning. Are we dysregulated? We're going into grounding. Are we coming up with blocks constantly and constantly? Let's look at the weeding aspect. And as we maintain it, we're maintaining this internal garden that it's an ecosystem. We're cultivating this beautiful ecosystem and garden that is able to flourish because we're doing the work essentially. And I would invite you, I think there's a lot of like, oh, I just want this work to be over, but you get to choose how the work feels. Yeah. And if you want to make that feel
hard and heavy or light and
hard
exciting
and sucky and complaining about it. And again, I've been there. This is why I'm saying it. Or if you want to approach it in a different light and make it like a bit of a game. I was listening to this girl the other day who was talking about gamifying life and giving yourself a health point when you get up in the morning and you do something. So you have free will and you have choice. It's up to you how you want to view that. But yeah, that's the process. So the reason as to why that visioning piece is so important and it's at the start is because our subconscious mind loves to think that it has certainty. It loves to future predict. So we need to be doing mental rehearsal and giving it a new pathway and a new vision to be moving towards, because without that clarity, we're just going to continue repeating whatever it is that we're currently experiencing. That was a lot.
Powerful, Maddie. Mic drop. Powerful. Thank you. I got so much clarity personally as you were going through, and I was like, Hillary, stay engaged, because meanwhile, I'm like, my whole life is transforming before my eyes. I just got all the clarity of where I thought I had no clarity. I just got it all. Even just like what you were just saying with the gamifying and understanding this ecosystem and understanding how you work. I feel like when we actually understand the energetics of it, when we understand how our subconscious works, when we understand that nothing is going wrong, when we understand that, yes, life will present us with these, as we said, opportunities, or when you can almost see it with this game, or I just feel like you hack and understand how life is actually operating. So you no longer have to feel like you're in the weeds with it, and you can start to see the bigger mission or the bigger purpose, or like almost reality check yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I know we say this a lot, but it's like calling yourself out on your own shit. Because for me, I was like, all right, I'm getting stuck in the weeds. I'm actually scared of what it looks like and what it feels like to be successful or to be in my power. And so it was easier to sit in victim mode in some areas in my life. It was easier to hyperfixate and ruminate on, oh, well, I don't have this because I had all of these like traumas, quote unquote, in my life. And it only gets you so far. It only gets you so far. And I think I'm not saying that because I also believe that if the step that you are on and that you even need to be on for months on end is the weeding and it is generating that awareness, it is validating yourself, it's honoring that you're in that victim mindset or you're having that experience because shitty things did happen. Don't rush through the process. If anything, the opposite, I'm saying validate yourself if that is where you're at. But there comes a time where you do need to call yourself out on your own shit and you're like, okay, it's time to move forward and to get back on track with this vision that we've cultivated and start living our life.
And yeah, we can tell ourselves we don't have clarity when really there is that fear and we're in the weeds with it. And I think that was the clarity I got earlier of just like, you do know, Hillary, it's just you're afraid to admit how big that is. And it actually feels so far away. But at the same time, I also remember back when things that felt far away are here now. And so it was just a really big, oh, okay, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean it's not possible.
No. And we're projecting it so far out into the future.
So far out.
That creates overwhelm.
Exactly.
Also, whatever you're talking about, I'm getting like waves of goosebumps. So I'm excited. I feel like it's in an incubator. So we're not going to talk about it on the podcast is the feeling I'm getting, but it's coming.
I have actually really enjoyed this recently that when something is so in the incubator, not to share it, I am such an open book. But when something is so in the incubator and is this little creative like bing and almost like protecting the energy around that, I'm going to keep this in an incubator and allow it to like become something rather than my usual is just share. And vice versa, it might be different for someone else that like keeps everything really secretive and then has their method for like even for you like holding the
baby was overdue.
The baby was overdue. Let's just say it was definitely an overdue baby that was ready to be birthed. And it was so ready. You can even see the way you share it. It's so processed and so everything. So yeah, I think just being really honest, if we actually don't know, well, there's a fear around it, and that's okay. There can be fear around it or disbelief around it. But at least be honest that like, yeah, you do have the clarity. And I even recently, just yesterday, was in a session with a client and she said like what she did want. And she's like, I've never actually said that out aloud because it felt really selfish. And it felt like, who am I to think that? And we just like own it. It doesn't mean you have to go share it everywhere if it's still feeling vulnerable, but own it for yourself at least.
Yeah. And I guess just tailoring back to what you said, it's that what was coming to mind is like the medicine is usually in the opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like when we're reprogramming, it's because we're sick of doing the same thing that we're doing. So we want to do the direct opposite and then recalibrate and figure out a happy medium for us. I love that with your client, though. I think that's a really powerful thing to highlight with what you're saying of only you know, right? Only you know where you're at if, yes, it's time to share.
Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
I feel like being honest of why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you're trying to, I don't know, hide or there's fear around it, or just like genuinely, no, I want this to be in the incubator of have its own energy.
And for your client, if she's sharing and that she's never shared it with anyone, so beautiful that she shared it with you and you're such a safe person. I think if you are really scared, making sure that you set up spaces, relationships, environments where you can share that and that person does feel safe and supportive. Again, use your intuition to who that might be. It still might feel a little bit scary, but at least they can hold that for you and vision hold for you as well.
Yeah. And I always think, be careful what you wish for when you announce it. And like, I mean this in the most positive way, because even now that I have the clarity, I have like accountability to that now.
Yeah.
You know, and you know me, I'm going to be like, okay, well, it's going to happen now. And yes, if anything, it feels scary. But me and Maddie were voice noting about this, about how when you step towards something, or if you're manifesting something, I don't know about you, how are you feeling about the word manifesting? No opinion?
Well, I got a different, and I'm going to butcher this definition. I heard this lady and she spoke about it less as it being this whimsical, magical thing. And she's like, you identify something that you want and then you do the work to get it. So it's not like
wishful thinking.
No, it's not wishful thinking. If anything, it's the opposite. It's basically the Bloom method is a manifestation process, and I don't sell it as that. It's becoming who you want to be, your best version of self, because I believe that in doing that and getting clear on what you want, naturally you manifest or you achieve the goals and dreams that you're desiring, right? But it's not you've set the vision and then you're like, okay, we're good, it'll come to me. No, we're doing the limiting belief work. We're identity shifting. We are taking aligned action. We are getting in the quote unquote vibration. We're embodying the energy, the essence, the thought patterns of that person to have that thing. So I think there's a lot of different definitions of manifestation. So I avoid of the word manifestation. So I kind of avoid using it because of that.
Exactly. That's how I feel, because it's really you becoming that person, and then it naturally follows on from that. And you're also doing all the action and the aligned behavior. But I feel like that word, it's not that, because it has been rebranded, but it's still, I think we needed to define it. For some reason, we needed to define it. So with this, when we are creating, manifesting, wanting a different experience for ourselves, when we almost declare that desire, as we've just said, what will happen? Be given opportunities and invitations to step into embodiment of this person or the energy that would naturally create the thing that we're wanting to create.
Yeah.
So it's not so much we're focusing on the thing, so much of just who you're becoming in order for it to naturally follow on from that place. So for example, if you wanted to start a business, you become the person who would start the business. But in the saying that, and we can talk about identity shifting, I definitely want to speak to that, but it means you're going to have to move, for using that example, through fear of being seen. You're going to have to move through any money stories, any money conditioning that you have to unpack. There's going to be instances where the universe will give you these invitations in order for you to up level and grow. And I less so see it as a test, but more so as this invitation to a higher timeline.
Yeah.
And there are also going to be these invitations to heal something that we're here to heal. So we'll call it karma, tycoon, your evolution. And when we see that we are being given, again, these opportunities, because you're not just here to start a business. You're not just here to have a family. You're here to evolve into your highest version of yourself, and also to just create a beautiful life free of the things that you may have carried from past lifetimes. And when we can see that the ultimate destination, if there even is one, is to come back to your embodiment of love, of freedom, of true acceptance. And when we can see that instead of thinking that life is punishing us, but instead that desire has been plopped into you to create a motivating force that's going to mean that you will step through the fear. You will step through the insecurity. You will step through the thing that you have come here to correct or heal. And so this has really shifted the way that I've seen things. Of even just recently, I had a bigger business goal, and of course I'm going to be tested on it. Of course.
Yes.
Some crazy things will happen. Maddie knows the specifics, but I don't want to gatekeep. So I'll say that we've just had some challenging money, random things where money was just taken out of my bank account without any protection or consent. And Lord knows how they can do that, but they did. And so it was just an interesting thing to navigate. Even my partner was like, isn't that illegal? how does that even happen? And even my accountant was like, I've never seen that before. And I just knew, okay, this is so energetic. Exactly. God, just when you think, yeah, the universe is powerful, just you wait.
Perfect opportunity.
Exactly. So, and effectively I was stolen from, but it was this interesting moment of, okay, I'm being like called to see how I would respond in this moment. And another big, and I'm just getting the clarity now, a big fear of me is getting taken advantage of and being betrayed. And that was a beautiful example of it. And yeah, I'm proud of how I moved through it. Actually, I very much am. I know how I would have handled that even maybe 6 months ago. They're very different to now. And it's been after that, of course, lots comes in.
Yeah.
5 times the amount of what was taken that came back in, like directly after.
Yeah.
Actually, way more, 15 times that.
Wow.
So that week, 15 times more came in.
Yeah.
So it's seeing that there is a bigger ecosystem or a bigger intelligence at play. And when we fight against it, I could have gone into such pity party and instead have a moment, acknowledge how I was feeling, let that pass, see what was coming and why that needed to show up in my movie.
Love so much of what you said. And yeah, I love that we share the same perspective, I would say. I think both of us, I know, coming from more of that, holy shit, I don't want to fail this test. And you kind of catastrophize it, right? When you're calling it a test already sounds scary. It's pass or fail. That's what a test is. It's not that. It's, like you said, an opportunity, an invitation, initiation. How I see this from, if you want to look at the neuroscience of it, right?
Yes.
We have an old neural pathway, right? So you have this old identity that's holding onto this old neural pathway that maybe would have been a bit more reactive or whatever that, however that would have played out, like, oh, I'm getting taken advantage of. That must mean X, Y, Z about me. That's not immediately. How does that make you feel in your body? Not good, right?
No.
If you feel genuinely like someone's taking advantage of you, that's going to cultivate that emotional state. And then you're going to be reacting more so from that place. But having the tools that you do and the ability to pause and be like, okay, this is actually in direct alignment to my vision, what I was saying that I wanted. This new identity.
And also my biggest fear.
Yeah. This new identity that I'm stepping into is this, you know, we're always calling something more success, more abundance, more. How would that person show up in this situation? And then you have paused and allowed, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean you probably didn't feel the thing.
Definitely.
You're still feeling what's coming up, but it's that your response is different. And when you respond differently, I want you to see it like a fork in the road.
Yeah.
Because you've created a vision and because you've said, I want to be showing up in a different way, you've sparked something, you've sparked a connection that knows that there's another option available. You're not completely on autopilot. So when this instance has come in, there's now a bit of a fork in the road. There's the path that's well worn out, or you can take the path that's a little bit overgrown, a little bit jungle looking, and you can slowly and a bit like, if you think of it like a jungle path, so say you've walked down this jungle path 5,000 times, right? You know your way, you're going automatically. The other path is overgrown. You're in the Amazon, so you're getting out your machete and you're cutting it down. It's a bit awkward, a bit weird, and you're a little bit stressed when you're taking the action.
Yeah.
But once you get to the action point and you reflect back, you can be proud of yourself and be like, oh, that's actually different to how I would have handled it. And maybe it was a little bit clunky, but it actually felt good and I'm proud of myself. And yeah, I can see that that's actually in greater alignment with the person that I'm becoming and the person that I want to be. And each time you pause and take that next path, what starts to happen is the other fork in the road that was well worn starts to get overgrown and you start to carve the pathway in the new path. Because we're constantly evolving and shifting and changing, that's going to happen every so often. When you decide to up level, maybe the way that you handled it this time is going to look different again. And I think allowing yourself to change and shift and evolve, but that's essentially what we're looking at when we're looking at creating a new neural pathway. It's not going to be this instant path that we can just stroll down. It's going to feel a little bit clunky, but it's your choice to be like, there's a fork in the road. I'm standing at it. What way am I going to go?
Yeah. And it can mean so much more than just what the actual experience is. And what I mean by that, even in using that example that I was just sharing, it was also like, oh, I have the choice now to stand up for myself. Maybe past self would have just been like, oh, it's okay. I don't want to deal with that. Or I don't want anyone to be bothered by this. And I would have probably just written it off. Yeah. And then I guess what really was coming up was what is the uncomfortable thing to do, but I know is what I need to do. And I think that's going to be different for everyone. Sometimes what's comfortable for you is uncomfortable. To some people, going instantly and telling them that they're wrong. And I kind of need to channel that in a little bit, not into that extreme. I didn't want to ever be reactive, but I needed to get fired up and angry about it.
Yeah. And be like, this is actually impeding on my boundaries.
Exactly.
You've taken money from my bank account.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of a learning of the clips of like this, like, where do I need to almost be not so porous with my boundaries?
Yeah.
And it's always just so ripple on if you allow yourself to do that inquiry. And it's only going to happen when as you said, in that fork in the road and you're like, okay, what are my options here basically?
Yes.
And it's always going to be the one that scares you most.
Yeah.
Even if your mind will tell you, no, that's wrong. Like, you'll be a bad person if you do that, whatever. But it's always the one you're scared of. It's with this funny thing that we think that if we're scared of it, that it's the thing we shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And again, survivally, I understand that, but we're not, it's not survival.
Yeah. I feel like in spiritual language, and I, again, caught myself doing this multiple times, and you're like, it's not in alignment.
I know. How easy is it to say it's not in alignment?
It's very easy to say it's not in alignment, but
or I'm just not feeling towards that.
Yeah. We shouldn't be always. There's a difference between being in our limbic part of the brain, our emotional center, our subconscious, and not feeling good about something, which is basically we're operating off our subconscious patterning, or when we're tapped into higher self, we're grounded, we're in the body, and something intuitively not feeling good. They're very different. So I think that's a good distinction to make. Are you just saying it's not feeling good because it's uncomfortable and it's scary? Or intuitively, do you have this sense that, no, actually that's not right for me. That is genuinely not aligned. And I think that can feel a bit nuanced. I think it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time to differentiate.
You almost have to pattern reading of knowing, you know, when you have, we could even use parts, when parts are activated with that. And sometimes I even think we even get this idea of if I feel really overwhelmed, or if I feel a lot of pressure, or if I feel stressed about something, we, again, immediately, especially, I think we've gone the so opposite way. We've gone from like the hustle culture to no feeling of stress, no feeling of pressure. If I'm stressed or pressure, then it's all wrong. And I hear this a lot from even my clients that are with human design readings. It's this idea that if it doesn't feel instantly natural, it's like we're doing something new, of course, or all of a sudden more people are wanting more of your energy and you have to expand your vessel to hold it. Exactly. And now I see, and I was just recently sharing it in another podcast about really deciphering between the healthy pressure, like where it's like, okay, things are moving, stuff is happening. Okay, can I hold this? Oh, I just got invited to another podcast where I'm just doing this thing, and it can feel like a lot. Yeah. And not just being instantly like, well, pressure equals bad. And pressure is even different if you're putting too much pressure on yourself and you're like being perfectionist and all these things. But same with stress. It's like, these are these things where your vessel is being asked to expand in this moment. And we can easily, again, go down the fear route of, oh, okay, this is a reason why I shouldn't do that now. And again, it's so nuanced.
So nuanced.
So nuanced. But I really want to say that because I got really stuck in that, especially with a projector, hearing that narrative of like how you're meant to work as a projector. And I could see it on one aspect, but there was also like so much desire to create and do. And then it was, oh, now am I overworking and all these things? And no, why am I now discounting that? So I think we got to be so much more trusting of ourselves and be really attuned to when the negative voice, let's just say that, the one that just can get on the microphone and just really come with a very strong message, it can be speaking in lots of different ways. And so it can shift. At one point, it's going to be really relevant that you do need to really slow down.
Yeah.
And you do need to open. And it's going to be one point where you need to be like, it's going to tell you to slow down, but this is actually the time to move. So you have to just think, again, I got no answers for you, but you got to be attuned with, do you have any like tips with this?
I love that we're talking about this. And I also just, you have so much life force and so much to give. So I'm so happy that you're not trying to be projected to a T. We wouldn't get all your magic. I love that this is what we're chatting about because funnily enough, as I was pulling into the podcast studio today, I was thinking about this because I too went through that where I went through that hustle culture phase where I completely burnt myself out, no connection to my body, wasn't listening to my body, wasn't listening to how I felt. And then I fully pendulumed to I'm just going to fully allow myself to rest, and I'm going to let my emotions take over and this voice. And if I think that I need to rest or not push myself, I'm going to give myself that. And that had a purpose because I actually needed to heal my body and I genuinely needed to rest. But then that became my comfort zone.
Exactly.
And I then was, not moving when I probably not should have, but like it would have been beneficial for me to be moving in certain ways. And I got stuck in that. And I was thinking, so this week for me, for some reason or another, has just filled out like wildfire. I'm not joking. Last week I had one commitment, I think 1 or 2 commitments. So I had a half-day retreat this weekend on the Sunday, perfect, beautiful. And then our mutual friend and I were like, let's do a strategy day, which was a massive day on Tuesday. So it's Thursday at the moment. And then just last week, I got invited to speak at an event, like in front of 70 people. And I haven't prepped for that fully. And then I'm running my container. This is the second week of the Bloom method, the first time I'm running the container. And then yesterday you messaged me and you're like, there's a spot opening. Do you want to come down? I live about an hour or so away. Do you want to come down and do this podcast? And I had that
please, Maddie. But also understand if it's too much, but please.
And I had this moment and I had to really check in with myself of, am I stretching myself too much now?
Yeah.
Or I've been calling a lot in. I've been calling a lot of big things in. I've been manifesting a lot. I've been having a lot of movement in my life, in my business in particular, a lot of flow, a lot of new beautiful people coming into my life, my community. And I've been asking for this. And so I witnessed this voice that would usually say, I don't have the capacity, that's too much. And I sat with that. And instead I chose to say, actually, I have the capacity, I have the space. This is in alignment to the vision. If I look at my vision board that I've glued my face onto, there's a podcast right there. I'm actually instead going to say yes, and it's stretchy. I'm not burning myself out. This actually is giving me energy. I feel more energized sitting here now than I did walking in. And so stretching, and as you said before, we need to expand our capacity, but we need to do it in a way that is in alignment, because when it's not in alignment and when you're not being honest with yourself and you're not checking in. So let's say this was some random friend's birthday party and they've invited me and they want me to drive 2 hours, 4 hours, and I have all this business stuff that I'm focusing on. That's not really in alignment with my vision right now today, and they're inviting me last minute. That would probably more so have been a no. But something like this where I'm excited, I know I'm going to get energy. There's so much that this is a space that I'm wanting to move in. I need to check myself. And instead of saying, I don't have the capacity or I'm not going to have time to do X, Y, Z and start to panic, let's go day by day, moment by moment, and let's actually say yes. And I said to Hillary, I was like, I think I'm being invited to expand my nervous system at the moment and share and be speaking and all of that more. So I'm going to say yes. But exactly, there is that voice still that pops up and you only know.
Only you know. And that's such a perfect example because even in this, a lot of us, sadly, have had this experience with burnout. And so we lose trust within our own body. And for me, I felt like I almost my body needed to forgive me, if that makes sense. I needed to almost rebuild my relationship with my body and seek forgiveness. And I see this a lot, especially with people wanting to start their own business in something now that they're passionate in. And there is a fear of, will I get burnt out again? And I think there is this very big movement, and I'm 100% with that, of mindfully creating your business and not burning yourself out in the process. But I do think that there is something to say, exactly how you said, that when there is an energy moving through you, you have to go with it.
Yeah.
And to actually stop that energy moving through you is a disservice. And I think we need to give ourselves the chance of doing the things exactly as you said, that's in alignment for us. If I had something that didn't give me energy, and I share this with students in the certification, I'm like, I don't always want to show up to a reading. Sometimes I'm really tired, really tired. The second I'm in that reading, it's like a surge of energy that moves through me, and it's so exciting and I get so much from it. And so I know that. But at the same time, then you factor in things afterwards. So I know I'm not going to make a commitment, I don't know, any other commitment. And I think we got to really prioritize what we care about in this season. And so if it is, you are prioritizing your business growth, that's going to mean you have to show up for your business.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I feel like it takes our power away when we then second guess that, because again, that's the voice of the inner critic or the mind saying, no, don't actually do that new scary thing. You're really tired.
Yeah.
You're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You really taught me that, and I'm so grateful for it. I remember when, I think it was in Bali. I'm going to assume it was in Bali.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel a bit crazy. I'm launching a podcast and then I'm doing this container and then I'm doing and I started rattling off, and you were immediately to me, no, there is life force moving through you. Keep going.
Let it go.
Yeah.
It's harder to stop it. And I feel like the thing with it is that when you let it go, you're being supportive. And when we start to remember that when that energy is wanting to move through you, no, there is no time like the present. Like you're going to not feel ready though. You never feel ready.
I think something that's really helped me in particular with business at the moment that I've been reminding myself a lot, it's actually not about me.
It's not.
This is moving through me at the moment.
Exactly.
Because there's a collective need, obviously, for what I'm currently sharing. And there's a desire for the information, which is why I'm getting these invitations to do the things and share the knowledge. It's nothing actually to do with me. Yeah. And so getting out of my own way in this sense, and there's a prayer and I feel as though you will know it and it's not coming to mind. It's the Course of Miracles.
What would you have me say? What would you have me do and to whom?
Yeah. I've been just repeating that constantly. Again, it's not about me, letting something channel through me and getting out of the way a little bit. And I think that unhooking or not being so enmeshed, especially with business stuff, I'm allowing it to, and Alicia and I, our mutual friend, were talking about this. It's its own entity. And so, yes, you are of service and yes, there's parts of you in it and whatever. But yeah, I think the detachment from it allows you to pour energy into it without being like, it's burning me out. It's like there's something else. Like you said, you go into those sessions, something just channels through you. You don't need to be your most alive, vibrant version of self. You just need to be a channel and be like, what would you have me say? Where would you have me go? You know, those things, and stepping out of the way a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost egotistical to think that my brunt force would be any better than just like allowing the energy to move through me. And I think it takes the pressure off, and there's nothing more powerful than that.
Yeah.
And it also means that all your insecurities or fears and things like that can drip away so much when you make it less personal. And what I've also noticed, when the less I attach to something and make it mean something really big, the harder it is for it to actually land. Yeah. Whenever we attach, even like, okay, well, it's so important that I have this X, Y, and Z thing, this business, this house, this partnership, this car. We're losing our power, really. We're literally losing our power. We're putting something on a hierarchy where we're putting our sense of worth and our sense of self into that thing. And when we do that, it is so much harder for that to even come. But also as well, it needs to be taken away because we need to find it without it. So the second you honestly let things go, like I was recently speaking with a client about this. She was really putting so much pressure on herself to have this perfect podcast. And she'd launched her podcast. She has a really big community. And there was so much of this hyper fixation on doing the podcast right because she really wants it to be great for her community. And this perfectionism really shows up in a lot of her life. And there was this moment and we were just like, this is not about the podcast. Literally, it's never about the podcast. It's never about the business. It's never about the thing. It's who you're being invited to become. And in this moment, she was being invited to do it messy.
Yeah.
Do it uncensored. Don't rely on ChatGPT. Don't read a script. Like again, the opposite is usually the medicine. So for her, doing something in the moment, spontaneous, to not have everything pre-planned. And I was like, this is a stimulus that's showing up right now for you to be able to shift your patterning that I really believe she came here with because she's so hard on herself. Yeah. And so this was an opportunity. Who gives a shit about the podcast? I knew the podcast is going to be amazing the second she actually does release the perfectionism. But it's not about that. That is over attaching to like, this thing needs to be perfect. No, what is the process inviting from me now? And that is, again, like going back, that will create it, but also that is the whole point.
Yeah, love that. And what I just clicked with me as you were saying that. It's like projecting your insecurity onto a podcast.
Onto anything.
Or a
Onto
fear
a relationship.
or a limiting belief onto, something else. And then, allowing that to have the power over you as well and taking you out of your sense of self.
Yeah. And it's our body will always tell us in the sense of,
I can feel it.
You feel it. It's going to feel for her, speaking about the podcast, it felt really hard.
Yeah.
And she was saying that it would take a whole day for her to record one podcast and multiple days in all the preparing.
Yeah.
And it was this moment of, well, firstly, that's not sustainable, but also it's taking all the joy out of the process.
Yeah. What's the point if you're miserable and depleted?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
But it's this attachment to it needs to be perfect right away. And I see it a lot of even people learning new things. It's like, I need to be a master right away. We put this self-ridiculing, self-judgment lens over everything that we do. It's not actually making you better. It's actually stopping you in your tracks.
Yeah. And you're projecting that version of you out into the future instead of being them right now, which you're more than capable of doing. I love the be, do, have model. Have, do, be.
Tell us more about that.
Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
Be, do, have. So we operate in a way of have, do, be. So when I have something, then I'll do the thing and then I'll be the person.
I'll be happy.
Yeah, I'll be happy. Whereas we want to, and again, this is just tying into everything we spoke about, even going back to the Bloom method, it's actually being that version of you, then doing the thing from that place, and then you get what you want.
Yes.
So we're attracting it to you. So it's about you. Who are you being in that process?
And that can be instant. It's not about that in the future.
Yeah, it's right now because you're always chasing a feeling. And we spoke quite in depth, I think, on the last podcast about this, but you're chasing a feeling when they're projecting out, okay, I need to be 10 years ahead. How are they visualizing that they are going to feel when they have that experience? How will they be showing up? Because they know. They will actually know. They'll know how they want to feel. They'll have this vision of how they're sharing, how they're showing up in sessions, how they're engaging with clients. And there's actually nothing stopping you. Maybe there's some gaps in knowledge or wisdom, maybe, but there's nothing usually stopping you from just embodying that in the moment and just showing up. It's like just acting as if, essentially.
And I want to ask you, for the person that doesn't even know or wouldn't even have in the realm of their possibility of what is a healthy relationship like, or what is having a healthy relationship with money or having a healthy relationship with my body. It's almost like they wouldn't even know what that looks like, or they can't even tap into that energy. So being there, and I still continue with that, even just what I had the realization earlier. So what would you recommend to that person?
I think there is so many different ways that we can cultivate the awareness of what that would look like. Honestly, I'm going to give people a really quick hack, actually.
Please.
That's going to just literally, you'll know in 5 minutes.
We love tangibility.
Yeah. And obviously there's a million other things that we can add to this to make it more authentic and to beef it out a little bit. But you can literally grab ChatGPT and say, I'm wanting to cultivate a healthy relationship, whether it's to myself or with others. This is what I'm currently experiencing. This is how I'm currently feeling. I'm not quite sure how I want to feel or what do I want to experience or what beliefs and thought patterns, emotional states and habits someone would have with a healthy relationship. Can you give me some ideas about that? That will at least open up your awareness when it comes back to you and it says, okay, well, someone that is in healthy relationships might have X, Y, Z. They're likely having these beliefs, It'll at least be like, okay, there's another way, because we want to essentially just give ourselves the awareness that there's another way of doing something. There's another pathway, there's another option, because when we're stuck in these things, it's because we're so disempowered and there is a part of us that does not believe, they cannot see, they are blind to there being another possible way. Another way that's a bit more in-person vibe, I would start going to places and surrounding yourself with people that are what you perceive to be in more of a healthy relationship. I learned something which I think is so cool. So 2 things. When you go into environments, let's say this could work even like say with money or career, you go into somewhere affluent, somewhere where you know that there's wealthy people hanging out, right? There's actually, when you enter into a room, there's what's called chemo signals that linger in the room, which is basically the vibration of the amount or sum of people that have been in that room. So when you're in spaces where people have been, so we're in a podcast studio now, there's amazing conversations. We're actually picking up on the vibration and the frequency of people who have been in the room before us. Amazing. So putting yourself in environments where there's people that have what you're wanting, getting in the energy of it essentially. And then the other thing is, which is more commonly known, is which is the mirror neurons. So essentially we have this part of our subconscious mind where we actually, it's really powerful for us to witness and to see, even having a conversation with someone, listening to a podcast, starting to look maybe even on social media, even though it can be a bit more polished or whatever, but starting to pick up on things, reading books, so that your mirror neurons can start to see, oh, okay, there is another way of being. And then if I adopt maybe this behavior and try this on, I can start to adopt a healthy relationship or whatever the thing it is that you're working on. So hopefully that's helpful.
So helpful. And it goes back to what we were saying in our last podcast with familiarity and creating that safety within that new experience and just showing your body, showing that it's possible, but also that it's safe. And what was coming to mind even then when I started creating my business, that other people that were creating things, doing similar things, because I remember before I didn't know anyone that had their own business, except older. My age, I didn't know anyone that was doing anything really different.
And in human design,
oh God, no, God, let alone in spirituality. Imagine, I'm talking even like anything.
Yeah.
Everyone had a traditional profession, which is amazing if that's where you'll feel called. And I think that's where I came to podcasts, because then I was like, okay, people are doing different things. So even podcasts, I think, is really helpful if people are wanting to, again, show neurologically that it's possible and that it's safe.
Yeah, the familiarity, absolutely. I feel like we've segued from our first podcast. Love, this is a bit of a side tangent, but it's something that I've noticed coming up, and I feel like it's actually relevant to this, and I would be so curious to hear your perspective on it, which is copycatting. So basically, when you start to be like, I want a healthy relationship, I want this type of career, whatever it is, you set the intention, you have the vision, you start moving through the process, moving towards that thing. What happens is this amazing thing in your brain. So your reticular activating system is going to hyper focus and find you information that's going to support that. And what ends up happening is people get disheartened because they're like, oh, someone's already doing that thing. That means I must, like, it's not meant to be because someone's already doing it and I don't want to copy or whatever. And they start to get stuck and panic and then not do the thing because they're so fearful that they're copying someone else, simply because their reticular activating system's actually trying to give them information to be like, yes, there's these opportunities out here. There's this expansion. Let's bring you all the information that you need so you can do the thing, you can do the business, you can have the relationship, and then you will psych yourself out because you're so fearful of copying. So I'd love to hear your perspective and take on that.
I more see it that it's less so copying. It's more that they talk themselves out of something because they feel like someone else has done it. So they're almost thinking like, if I'm not the first, if I'm not the only one that has, even I hear people like, oh, that business name's taken or these types of things. It's like, you can still name it.
It's a sign I can't do it. It's like, absolutely not.
It's not. You've got there's other names, or there's lots of similar business names out there. So don't let it, again, that negative voice talk you out of it, being like, oh, well, if I'm not the first or if someone else has already done it. No, it will come through your unique vessel and it can't help but be your version of it. And people will connect with your energy around it and your take and your perspective and your creations. So I think if you are noticing that it is interfering with your own creative process, drown it all out.
Yeah.
Get it all out. Because as you said, the Rouse is finding it. I think any opportunity to not be judgmental with yourself and just move through it quicker. And I wanted to speak about non-specific manifestation, because this sometimes comes up in human design and I often get asked about it. It was an interpretation that's not traditional, is not the traditional human design. It was an interpretation that was later made with like specific and non-specific. And I would love your take on the non-specific aspect.
Yeah, well, speaking about this before we started recording on the podcast, and I even felt it a bit controversial, Hilary, but I don't know about the whole non-specific manifesting thing. It kind of screwed me over.
Yes.
And basically because I learned human design pretty much at the same time as subconscious reprogramming. So I adopted a lot of, I kind of blended things, I guess. And that was one of the things. So I was really vague. I wasn't doing vision boards. I was super vague with my goals.
And that can be safe because it's like, I need to dream and desire then.
And was not specific with, I'd want to move house, but I'd be really uncomfortable and weird and wouldn't say certain things that I wanted in the house, or it just showed up in so many different ways. But honestly, for years, till very recently, if I'm being completely honest, it's probably only been more so the last 6 months that I've gotten really specific and granular, and holy shit, things are coming through so much faster. It is wild. So I was saying to Hilary, the more I actually lent away from the whole non-specific thing and being a bit more vague, the quicker I manifested things, or the quicker things came into creation, the better that I felt, because I was clear on where I was going and what I was doing. And again, circling back to the beginning of the podcast, having that vision and getting clear and getting as granular as you can over time, building out everything from your vision down to your goals, down to the specificity of what you want, down to the habits that you need to be doing daily in order to achieve those things, is what is going to get you the thing. And people will maybe say, oh, isn't that just goal setting? No, because there's other parts to the process where you're able to rapidly move through the blocks because you have these other subconscious reprogramming tools. But again, if you don't have that specificity and that blueprint, it's going to be really hard. It's also very disempowering. I was manifesting things when I look back, but why? I felt I had no control. I wasn't co-creating. I was just kind of receiving, doing the work and being open, which is beautiful and a part of it. But I think it's actually a little bit disempowering, was my experience with the whole non-specific manifester thing.
And like, look, you're going to be non-specific manifesting anyway. Do you know what I mean? Of course, there's going to be things manifesting that you're not doing, but then as also having things that you're specifically moving towards. What was coming up from me is that, again, be really clear when we're doing things that help us feel better in our safe zone. So if we almost feel like, oh, it feels really nice and good that I just manifest from a feeling. I just want to feel free. And that's what like is always spoken about with non-specific manifestation. Was okay, get the feeling that you want to embody. And that, yes, that's
part
so important. Exactly, part of it. But we don't want to just stop there. No. And we got to be really clear of whenever we learn something, whether it is supporting us to stay exactly where we are, which is going to feel nice to the body. Our mind will like that.
Comfortable.
It'll feel very comfortable, beautiful. Or is there something that is going to feel a little bit stretchy, and it might be like, oh, is that really what I want to put out there, or do like this? It feels so far away, all these things like that can be scarier almost to, and I'm even thinking of a specific person that it can be scarier to even say that, because it almost feels disheartening or heartbreaking if it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
you know?
Because there's too much attachment. There's so many elements that go into it, isn't it? It's like you need to be specific.
Yeah.
You need to be specific, but then you need to surrender it and allow it to come how it's going to come, and you need to be detached from the process, and you need to have the feeling. It's reminding me a lot of Joe Dispenza work. I've kind of to and froed from his work, but recently I've been doing some of his meditations as well, and something that he'll always say is the intention and the emotional vibration is basically what brings it to you. So that is the clarity.
Yeah.
What do you want? Get specific, and then you get in the feeling. And I think that's so we should be
both.
We need both.
We need to be specific and non-specific.
Yes. That's our conclusion.
Then we let life show us, and we let life almost present us, and even going back to what we were saying, like these opportunities where you have the fork in the road and you can decide to choose different, but you have to be making steps forward to be able to be given that, you know?
Yeah.
It's like we have all these beautiful ways that we're connecting deeper to ourselves. We've got our human design, we have our subconscious work, we also have our manifestation work. But at the end of the day, we just have to give ourselves a try. We just have to give it the opportunity. And I say this because I see so much of trying to do it right all the time.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's not the point. And when we can see that through it all, firstly, we're going to be fine. And that also you're being able to create an opportunity to be like deeply, deeply proud of yourself, and also to expand into this new operating system.
Yeah.
So yeah, give yourself more of a chance and give yourself more of a fighting chance.
Yeah, it's reminding me of the quote that you shared in the last podcast of being in the arena.
Yeah, be in the arena.
Be in the arena.
Yeah.
And something that's a little bit of side tangent rogue, but I'm going to share it because it was definitely a bit of a mind-blowing realization. I was reading a book and it's largely on embodiment and nervous system. And she said in the book that overwhelm and overflow feel the same to your nervous system. And that was a bit of a holy shit moment, because when you're expanding your vessel and capacity, you are wanting more. So don't mistake overwhelm with overflow. That could have easily been me, right? Even coming to this podcast, shit, I don't have, it's too much. Actually, the things that are coming in are the things that I want to be filled up with. I want to be in this space of overflow and abundance from them. And yes, it's feeling the same as overwhelm in a way in my body, but I need to actually retrain myself to create safety in that. And in doing so, it expands that. We keep talking about the vessel, your capacity, your ability to hold these things as well.
Yeah. Stress, overwhelm it's good.
It is good.
More light is wanting to come in. And again, it's like being in really, how we were saying, like a healthy understanding of honoring when it's time and also when it's not.
Yeah. There's a TED Talk that I love. Her name is Kelly McGonigal. Definitely go watch it. But she actually did studies around stress. And she talks about it's not actually the stress that's killing people. It's the beliefs that you hold about the stress. So again, talking stress is good. Not if it's chronic and you're not regulating and you're like, no.
That you're not lit up about the thing you're doing.
No, we're not talking about that. But in terms of that stress, tension, what you're saying and what the Kabbalah is saying, there's so many wisdoms and now we're getting science on it as well. It is good. It's healthy. We need it. If we want to grow and evolve, which is why we're here, this is how our bodies and our mind have been designed, is to grow, evolve, expand constantly. If we're not experiencing stress, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to do those things.
And to have resilience.
No, to evolve, to be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
Powerful. Oh, Maddie, I love my chats with you. From voice note to podcast, thank you so much. And I really just want to reflect back to how beautiful it is to watch you do it and watch you just really continue. And thank you for saying yes to being here. I know this would have served so many people. And I'm very excited for your incredible event this weekend. And just, I really hope you're so proud of yourself and what you're doing. And also, yeah, you're just allowing. So it's really beautiful to witness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm beyond grateful and it's given me so much life and energy. So in your presence. So thank you.
Thank you. So where can people find you, your Bloom method, and also you have an upcoming course?
So I have the Bloom method, which you guys have a good read on now from this podcast episode. It's actually in process now. So we have a container running at the moment. The next one, I believe, starts on the 8th of August. I want to say it's the beginning of August. And then, yeah, I have another course coming up, which is the Higher Self course. The waitlist is actually going out today for that. It's a 6-week container. Funnily enough, it's what we were speaking largely about today, which is creating that clarity, creating the vision. It is for the women who have the tools and resources, but they really need to ground into their clarity. They want to step into their power. You're wanting to up level. You know the things, you have the awareness, but you're feeling maybe a bit stuck or stagnant and you want someone to move and up level with you in a community of women. So that is going to start actually on the 5th of May, very, very soon. But you can follow me at Bloomin Within and on a podcast, Seed Your Subconscious as well. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, darling.
Thanks for listening. Love you.
Oh, thank you.